failed.
Emergency broadcaster.
That's good.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were awake. If you will, turn in your Bibles to the book of Genesis, the 32nd chapter, Genesis 32. And most Bibles it's at the beginning. I don't know about some of these perversions.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, amen, yeah.
Amen.
You know, I turned the TV on this morning. There's a guy on there preaching. He had a bald head. He was wearing glasses, had a white beard, and he was wearing black jeans. And I said, how can a man that's bald-headed, wearing glasses with a white beard and black jeans be in front of a church preaching? At least I wear a tie.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Jacob. I'll tell you a little bit about this Jacob character. He had an older brother named Esau. Esau played a very important part in the biblical history, and as well as Jacob. Now, Jacob was kind of on the run there, and he was afraid that Esau was coming after him, was going to kill him if he caught up with him. Call it sibling rivalry if you want. One of his men come running up to him and they said, Jacob, said, Esau's coming. He's just down the road there, and he's got an army of 400 men with him. And Jacob thought, it's over. That's it. So Jacob sends all of these animals and possessions and things like that. He sends his men down the road in groups, one after the other, to go down there and try to bribe Esau and take all these gifts to Esau. And he said, when you give these gifts to him, tell him his servant sends these gifts to you, Lord, with a small L. You know, sort of like a supervisor or a leader, the man of the house or whatever. But he sends them, and he sends one group after the other to try to meet him, to try to bribe him, till he gets up there to catch up with him. So I believe it's the 22nd, Genesis chapter 32, and verse 22. Jacob had laid down, and it says, and he rose up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. So Jacob, fearing for his family, he sends them all across a ford. Is a place in a river that's shallow enough that you can cross it without having to swim or fight currents and all of this. So he sends his wife and all of his children and all that he has. He sends them across the river at this ford, but he stays behind. So that brings us up to the next verse, where it says, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. This is the verse I want to concentrate on this evening. I got a quest sermon. A quest sermon.
Quest sermon.
Yeah, it's one I usually start out with a question.
Okay.
So, a question. Anyway. Are you wrestling with God?
Am I wrestling?
Are you wrestling with God?
About something?
That's the, you know, I like to give a question for you to think about during the sermon. But are you wrestling with God? Now, in the days, this is before Jesus.
Right.
This is the Old Testament. I know a lot of these modern day churches, they don't like to touch the Old Testament, but I love talking and preaching about the Old Testament. It don't get any better, and it's all about Jesus.
Amen.
even though he hasn't been born in the flesh yet. You find Jesus all over that Old Testament. That's right. Names meant something. Names of places and names of people. They stood for something. Jacob's name meant the supplanter. Now let me tell you what happened. I got my phone out and I got a Bible dictionary on there. And I looked up supplanter to see exactly what it was. I thought I knew, but I wanted to be sure. And it said one that supplants. That was the definition. I went, really? Duh.
So a planter is one that plants.
A supplanter.
Oh, a supplanter.
Supplant.
Right. It actually means to undermine. That's why when you're studying the Bible, sometimes you have to go outside the Strong's or outside, and you have to look at the Webster's dictionary. One that supplants. Okay. But anyway, Sister Beth was sitting behind me. I guess she heard me gasp or something. She said, "What?" And I said, "Duh." Anyway, it's one that undermines it. Jacob meant deceiver. In Strong's, I believe it says he's a heel catcher. That means a follower. Someone that follows on your footsteps, on your heel. He's a follower, but he's also very deceptive. Now the name fit Jacob. If you study Jacob's life, you'll see that the name Jacob actually fit what was going on there. So we got to pay attention to the names here.
Right.
Because Jacob's name is about to change to something that means something totally different. But the thing I want to look at here is he was alone. And he was wrestling with a man. What? So the first thing he can say is, if he's alone, how can there be somebody else there? Because did it not say that he was alone?
Yeah.
That means that this man, this being that he is wrestling with, is a spiritual being. It means that it's not a man as we know it, a fleshly man. But now this man's in the flesh. The spirit's in the flesh to fight with him. As you read the story later on, it says that, and we'll get to that, he asked this man for a blessing. Now there ain't but one being in this universe that can give a blessing. And that's God. But it says that this man blessed him. So what does that mean? That means that this man has to be God. Has to be the Spirit of God. There's another time the Spirit of God came here in the flesh, and we call him Jesus. So basically, this was a pre-incarnation of Jesus. That a lot of people will preach this, that he was wrestling with an angel. I believe he was wrestling with the angel. The head angel. The one above all of them.
He's called the angel of the Lord.
The angel of the Lord. He was fighting with God in the flesh. Because later on he says, I came face to face with God. When you're wrestling, you're face to face. So I don't think this was just an angel, because an angel can't bless you. If the angel gives you a blessing, God has to bring that blessing down. So my opinion is he's wrestling with God. Now there's a physical meaning to everything in the Bible. I say it all the time. There's also a spiritual side to it. He's physically wrestling with God. But the root of it is a spiritual fight. A spiritual battle that's going on here. Jacob had a lot on him. He's running scared. He's in charge of all these people and flock. God had been blessing Jacob. As far as riches went, he had it. When he sent those things, later on when Esau comes along, and finally catches up to him, just a little after what we're reading here. He didn't come nowhere near killing him. Instead, he runs up to him and throws his arms around him and hugs him. And then he asked him, why are you sending me all this stuff? I got plenty. And Jacob said, take it. I've got more than I need. So God's been blessing Jacob. God blesses us, but we still have things that we have to fight with on a daily basis. Spiritual things and physical things. Things in life and things with our spirit, where we stand with God. We wrestle with God all the time. God tells us to do something. We don't want to do it because it goes against how we feel. We ask God for an answer, but we don't want to hear it when He gives it to us. Because it's not the way we want it to be. So we wrestle with God on a daily basis. God, I don't understand. I've been praying and praying, but you won't answer that prayer.
Amen.
I love to point out in the book of Daniel, where Daniel said a prayer, and it took 21 days for the answer to get there. But the angel that delivered the answer, the prayer, said, I was sent out immediately, but Satan stopped me from coming down here for 21 days.
Oh, yes.
3 weeks. I had to fight with Satan, the angel said, and the archangel Michael had to come and help me fight Satan off so I could deliver the answer. God answered immediately. He said that the moment we said it. So when we pray to God about something, we expect an answer right then. But sometimes Satan gets in the way and prevents that from coming. That's part of this wrestling that we're doing with God. Because Satan's in there trying to tell us, no, God ain't answering your prayer, and He's not going to. Things are going to get worse, as a matter of fact. The more you try to fix things, the worse they seem to get. We all have shortcomings when it comes to faith in God. I'm a preacher. I stand up here and preach, but there's times I catch myself where I don't have the faith that I need, and I'll pray for something, and then I'll try to continue to fix it myself. Because I don't have full faith. I try, but Satan messes with my mind. He gets in there and he kind of eats away at that faith. And it comes to a point where you have to realize that you need to have more faith in that God's going to answer that prayer. And it might take 21 days. It might take 21 years. I've heard people praying for something that they didn't get for years and years, but years later that prayer was answered.
Amen.
When they least expected it to happen. I've heard of people weeks, hours, days, but I have heard some prayers that were answered immediately. What's it say? God's time is not our time. Our timing is different than His.
Yeah.
But Jacob's wrestling with this man, who I believe is Jesus incarnate. This is Jesus that he's battling with here. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. It wasn't a short battle. This battle went on all night. And day is about to daylight. It's dawn and daylight, the sun's about to come up and light and shed light on the whole world here. And it says, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. So it says here that they fought all night long. Wrestled all night long. It's about to break day. And this angel that he's fighting with, this being that he's fighting with, says, it's about to become daylight, let me go. Jacob says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. But the thing here was, it says that this being, that this man that he's fighting with touched the hollow of his thigh. He didn't punch it, he didn't hit it, he just touched it. And it threw Jacob's hip out of joint. Now, if this man had the kind of power where he could do something like that with just a touch, he could have ended that battle immediately.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't. He let the battle go on for hours or however long throughout the night, however long it took. And he finally got to a point where he seen that Jacob was not going to give up. Do you know Jacob was 97 years old at the time that this battle took place? I believe it was 97 years old. He's an old man at this point. But yet, he's stubborn enough that he's going to battle all night long, and he's not going to give up. He's going to fight that spiritual battle he's got going on, that emotional battle, whatever it may be. He's going to fight it to the end. And this angel sees that. This man sees that, and he says he just ain't going to prevail. He's not going to give up. And he just touched the hollow of his thigh, that's the inside, and the groin area, and it throwed it out of joint. Like I said, that shows you he had the power. He could have, if he had done anything besides, if he could do that with just a little touch, imagine what he could do with a punch, or what he could have killed him. If he won it with no problem whatsoever. He's that powerful. Jacob still, with his hip out of joint, still continues to wrestle him and says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. You ever do that with God? Brother Jody, you ever throw him down on the ground and hold him down and say, God, I'm not going to let you up till you give me a blessing? Maybe not exactly in those words, but there's times that we do that. There's times that we beg for a blessing from God, and what do? We just keep begging for it, begging for it, begging for it. We're going to prevail. We're going to fight all night long. We're not going to give up on it. You think God's going to get to a point where he says, I'm so sick and tired of Ferlin asking me for that over and over and over. I'm just going to give it to him so he'll shut up and leave me alone. I don't think God ever gets to that point. But we'll do that. We'll continue. But Jacob continued wrestling all night long. He said, I'm not going to let you up until you bless me. Man's going, I got other appointments. I got things I got to do. You kept me all night already. I'm not going to let you up until you bless me. Now, except thou bless me. 27, and he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And I've already explained what the meaning of the name Jacob was. He was deceitful, and he followed on your steps. He snuck up on you. And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. He said, from now on, you've proven yourself, Jacob, by prevailing through this battle, by hanging in there, by not giving up. You've proven to God, you've proven to me that you're going to fight, no matter what it takes, and you're going to fight for what's right. You prevail. Changed his name from Jacob to Israel. You know what the meaning of Israel is? Soldier of God. Prince with God. That's what it says, Prince with God. Or a soldier of God. A warrior of God. He went from being deceitful and following, being a hill catcher, to being a soldier for God.
We can only understand God will still do that today.
Do you ever notice throughout the Bible that God renamed a lot of people? And if you study the name they had before, Saul of Tarsus, he was renamed Paul. You know what Paul meant? The least.
What?
The least.
Least of the least. The least of the least.
That's why he said, I'm the least among the apostles. Paul meant the least. Saul was powerful, was up there. Paul was the least. Abram became Abraham. Sarah became Sarah. When they started doing for God and following God, he would change their name because names had meaning. Jacob went from being the heel catcher to being Prince of God. Peter was named Simon was his name. He was renamed Peter, which comes from the word Petra, which was rock. When we start living for God, we need to change. We don't have to legally go and change our name, but we have to change our attitude. We have to change our ways. We have to change the way we look at God, the way we look at the world, the way we look at ourselves. We have to be a new creature. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved.
Amen.
So he asked the man he was wrestling with, what is your name? And the man pretty much gave him the answer, what does it matter? Who cares what my name is? What's important is what's happened to you. Okay. Do you know Jacob was lame for the rest of his life? So we know there was a physical battle that took place. Because a lot of people would have said it was just all in your head. It was just a dream or a vision. Any time that Jacob got up to walk somewhere or go somewhere, he was lame because of being touched on it, because of what happened in that battle. He was constantly reminded of that battle and who did it. He named the place Peniel, which means face of God. And he said, because at this place I came face to face with God. Anytime he had a pain in his hip, he would remember the time he came face to face with God. He would remember that battle. Sometimes it seems like God's hurting us instead of helping us. But a lot of times it's put there, something we have to live with is put there as a reminder of the power of God.
Amen.
To remind us.
Amen.
Sometimes we get healed from something, but we still have a little pain that keeps coming back every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you've had a bad back, real bad, and you pray for it and it goes away, but then it seems like every now and then you still get a pain back here that just shoots through it. And you say, oh, I thought that I was healed from that. That's just God giving us a little reminder that He was the one that healed us. He wants us to remember the place we was when it happened. So Jacob had to live with this disability, or if you want to call it that, this lameness. He had to live with that bad hip the rest of his life. When he knocked his hip out of joint, he could have put it right back. God could have put it right back. Jesus could have healed it right back. But He didn't. He left him with that. Sometimes when we think something is bad, it's there to remind us of the power of God. It's there for us to bring back to our remembrance what God did for us. If He instantly healed us, every time we prayed, every time we had the slightest little twinge, you know, maybe you're sewing and you just prick your finger a little bit and pray for it. If he took it away from us, we'd get to the point where all I got to do is pray. And it'll go away. We won't be giving God the praise for it.
Sure.
We won't be remembering that He's doing it. We'll just, all I got to do is pray. And we get that attitude with our spiritual life a lot of times. We get the attitude that, well, all I got to do is pray. All I got to do is believe in Jesus. Everything will be all right. So every now and then He has to remind us of His power. I preached a sermon one time, why does God let bad things happen to good people? Because I get asked that quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
People ask me, if He's such a loving God, this God that you're talking to me about, why did He let so-and-so get cancer? Why does He let so-and-so live in pain? You know, we were talking about Paul earlier. Paul had what he called a thorn in his side. He had an ailment that bothered him. When he prayed to have it healed, God pretty much told him, you got to live with it because my grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
But Paul, the rest of his life, was constantly had this reminder, this thorn, and I don't take it to be a literal thorn that he could have just plucked out. That's what he called it. I have this problem. And it might not have even been a medical problem. It might have been something mentally. Maybe he had a problem keeping his spirituality up or something. Maybe it was an emotional problem. Maybe it was a spiritual problem. It doesn't have to be an ailment. But whatever it was, it plagued him. But it was a reminder. Every time this popped up, whatever it was, it would remind him of the power of God. So, are you wrestling with God? Be it something spiritual, something physical, something you want, something you need, but He doesn't seem to be supplying it. What did Jacob do? He did not give up. He fought throughout the night. And if an old man, I mean, I'm in my 50s, I feel like I'm in, maybe 300s, but sometimes. But if an old man can prevail and wrestle all night long with a powerful thing like this, then it's not going to hurt us to just hang in there and just wait. Wait for God.
You know, Ferlin, I got something to say on that. I'm sorry to interrupt you on that.
Go ahead.
But that was kind of the way, I told you a while ago about the other day that I had. And I stood out in the yard, honestly. And I would just look up. And I've been in this church now for, 5 years? Right at it. Mm-hmm. We have done the best that as humanly, we could probably do better, but we've done very well, in my opinion, of living a decent life, trying to help people. Nothing like we were before at all. And we're trying very hard. And that was one of my questions the other day. Is God, why is it taking so long? And what have I done that's so bad to make me have to live my old age time like this, so miserable? Why can I not just have a year or so of peace and love? And that was
That's a question.
why?
That's a
How
question.
much longer is it going? How much longer is it going to last?
Question.
Till I die. Well, I understand.
But see,
From then on.
Everybody has.
But Jacob.
I'm not saying that, just us.
But Jacob didn't give up. And eventually, he prevailed. And God said, you're no longer this follower. You're now a soldier of God. You're a prince of God. You got the power of a prince. Because he prevailed. He stayed there. He named that place Perennial Face of God. He said, I came face to face with God. That's why I said I believe he was wrestling with God. Or Jesus in an earlier form. But we have to be reminded sometimes. And sometimes God lets things go on bad until when he finally does answer it, there's no doubt in your mind or my mind that it was God that answered that. The situation gets so bad that there's no man on earth, woman or child or anybody that could pull you through it. The only one that can pull you through it is God. When he finally does answer that prayer, when things finally do get better, you can't give anybody the glory but God. Because you know nobody but God can do it. Like I said, God's the only one that can give a blessing. The angels can't bless us. God's the only one. So if we get a blessing, we know it had to come from God. But yeah, if you read on after this, you'll see that when his problem finally caught up to him, when Esau finally caught up to him, it was another blessing from God because he ran up and hugged him. And it was like, brother, long time no see. I missed you. Why are you trying to send me all these presents? I don't need them. So all this time Jacob is running in fear from something he didn't even have to fear in the first place.
Guilt.
That's right, guilt.
Guilt. Running from guilt.
Does that not happen to us? What was it, Brother Gary, that you said to God, what have I done wrong to deserve this
For so long.
for so long? You're saying, what am I guilty of that I need to suffer this punishment? But if you read this, Jacob was running from something he had no reason to
What
run.
was Jesus?
What was Jesus guilty of that he had to be crucified?
Exactly.
I mean, we have it easy.
But there's
I got a
times,
point
you know,
about that.
like I said, Jacob was running in fear from Esau when he didn't have anything to fear. It wasn't bad when it happened.
What he did?
So how many times do we run from something thinking it's something that's going to be bad, when in reality we're making it worse in our mind than it really is?
Yeah.
We're exaggerating the bad part in our mind, the negative part.
You do it slowly. And
And there's been a lot of times that I've said, why, God?
one,
There's a lot of times that I wrestle with God. We all do. So the next time I say, are you wrestling with God? I want to see every hand in the house go up. Are you wrestling with God? Yes. That's what I want to see. 'Cause I know I am.
Carly didn't raise your hand.
I'll do that sometimes when Brother Ron says, ask us a question or something, I kind of go,
What is it? Praise. Praise.
All these hardships are just gonna make heaven that much better.
amen.
Worth it all, right?
You would have appreciated when we got there, it was born in heaven.
But we have to be, we have to be like Jacob. We have to go from being Jacob to being Israel.
And Israel still had problems too.
Oh, amen.
He still had them, but he knew where his stuff's going to come from now.
He had trust. He had more trust in God, more faith in God after this. But he also had that reminder,
I mean,
that lameness to remind me.
don't forget what I can do. Don't forget what I can do. That's what God
The
means.
nation Israel,
He had battle scars.
and the nation Israel was named after him.
Yeah.
And his 12 sons is.
The 12 tribes
Is the
of
12
Israel.
tribes of Israel till this day.
To this day.
And there's one lost one, so they picked up Nessa, whatever his name is, put it in there. Nessa.
No time in the Bible when the 12 tribes.
We're gonna have problems in life. And a lot of us are gonna come through those problems, but we're gonna come out of them with battle scars.
That's right.
We just talked about that way church this morning.
By looking at the battle scars, he's to remind us of the power of God. How he helped us. If we keep our faith, we prevail. We go from being a heel chaser to being a prince of God. So think about it. Brother Ron?
There's several times in the Bible where the 12 tribes are named, and they are never named the same twice. Every time they're mentioned, it's different. The 12 tribes of Israel.
One name is changed out of 12.
Yeah,
And one of them is Manasseh, one of Joseph's sons was chosen
yeah.
to be one of the tribes.
Well, Dan likes this place.
Yeah, Dan,
He got kicked out.
he's one of them. Well, he didn't cross the river. He said, no, it looks good here, I'm gonna stay on this side. And the rest of them went across. I mean, so if you choose to stay behind, just like us today, you're gonna rob yourself of a blessing on the other side. And so Dan lost his, yes.
Well, Ferlin, I enjoyed that.
That was good.
Good.
That was good.